Toleration, be the love. Before pride and exaltation, be the love. Be the love.
You are listening to Be the Love, transcending through the shadows into a higher state of consciousness. We are souls on the journey, opening up the conversation to heal, awaken, and connect ourselves and the planet to a higher vibration of love frequency. It starts with you. Everything you need is within you. This is your time. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez, and we are your co-hosts at Be the Love podcast. Thank you for tuning in and ascending with us. Hop on board the Ascension Bus.
I'm Lara from Light Coast by Lara. I'm the Tigers of the Light.
This is Brad Panopoulos.
Hi guys, this is Nina Sauer.
This is Dig with Sacred Fire Arts.
Namaste. My name is Istola Joy Davy, and you're listening to Be the Love podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Be the Love, transcending through the shadows. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez.
And we are your co-hosts and souls on the journey. And thank you so much for tuning in this week. And if you've enjoyed listening to our show, we would be so grateful for a 5-star written review on iTunes. Reviews really help the show become more visible and spread the word to others. And if it feels safe for you, I'd like to begin by inviting you to get centered with us. I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present. And take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release in this now moment. And take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love for yourself, and breathing out that light and love and sending it to all of humanity, remembering that you always have your breath to come back to. And so today we have Rachael Grant Dixon. Rachael is the host of She's Awake podcast, living life with truth, purpose, and passion. She's a sport and performance psychology consultant and works with individuals, companies, and sports teams. Rachael specializes in teaching techniques and strategies that help people optimize their performance and increase their work productivity. Rachael believes that each person has their own path to truth and that each person is unique in the way that they contribute to the world. Discovering that purpose and passion is what life is all about. So thank you so much for being here today with us, Rachael.
I'm really excited to get to be here and really hang out with you guys. I mean, just the interactions that I've had with you have been wonderful. And
Absolutely.
I feel like we're in this community together. And so I am looking forward to what gets created in the next, little bit of time that we have together.
Absolutely. Me too. I love these conscious conversations and we can really open up and share that and learn from each other. And so I'd really love to hear what got you down your spiritual path.
Isn't that a loaded question?
Right?
No.
I don't start small.
I think it's a couple of different things. One, in terms of spirituality, I grew up in a wonderful family that was religious, and I love my faith-based community, my family of origins, religion. I grew up with concepts of God, of, Jesus Christ, of, and this concept of spirit, Holy Spirit, holy guide, right? So I grew up nurtured in the idea that there was something guiding me and that I could ask questions and that I could get answers from that source. And that was a wonderful, again, nurturing environment. And with that environment came boxes, came stereotypes, came a pattern in which I did not always feel like I fit. I was confused oftentimes, even in that nurturing environment, not feeling like I was experiencing what was being expressed over the pulpit as this is what you should be experiencing. And I didn't always have that. And so there were times of confusion for me. And fast forward, I'm a very active person, played athletics my whole life, still do. Have a huge passion for horses and equine, still do, presently still ride and enjoy all aspects of my horsemanship. And so I found myself that I had a lot of passion. I also love this world. I love learning things. And so this idea of spirituality just continued to grow. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that I feel very strongly that I was cultivated to, quote, awaken. I didn't even know what it was until it happened to me. And so for people that are hearing this podcast and maybe aren't like relating, I get it. Because in fact, I always joke and I say, if me 5 years ago would have talked to me, I would have walked away from that lady. I would have felt very uncomfortable with the things that she was saying. I would not have understood until it happened to me. And I have a date. I call it was May 21st, 2015. Mm-hmm. And I can't explain it. And I can't and I don't even want to, really. Why spend time doing that? I did for a number of years, try to figure it out. But what I am is just grateful for it. And I recognized something. And it awakened my soul, and it was an amazing journey, painful, gut-wrenching, and fell on my face several times. But there was a powerful source that kept saying, get back up, Rachel. There's more to learn. It's like, I felt like the divine was saying to me, your life as you know it will never be the same. And that has proven to be true for me. For me, that has been true. And that I live life now with a lot more curiosity and wonderment. And so that has been my journey. And so with that has brought all kinds of dynamics. And I'm grateful for all of it. But it isn't easy either. And so I honor that there is a shadow side of the journey life for sure.
Oh, it sounds like you've been on quite the journey and just really having to look at a lot of things and with awareness and with truth. And sometimes those are not the hardest or the easiest truths to really look at. And so, yeah. So thank you for sharing a little bit about your journey. And I'm curious, about your podcast and how that fit into your part of your awakening. And I love the title of it, She's Awake. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and
that's one of my favorite stories to tell. Yeah, that's no problem. A little bit about me. You have to know that I am probably one of the most untechnical people on the planet. I had not listened to a podcast until I recorded my first podcast. I didn't even know that there was an app on my phone. But because of my journey that started in 2015, things started to just come to me in really, again, I call them unique to me, but I started to really do the best that I could with what I knew at the time to communicate what I was seeing, feeling, and experiencing with God. Now, for me, in my language and the way I was raised, that term was God. My community and the She's Awake community will know that I'm very open to all languages of what we call source. So I'm not even limited to just that one term, though it's the most comfortable term for me. But I felt God. I felt this request, this invitation. Would you start a podcast? No. Let's be clear, God. Clearly, no. You don't want me. And but this impression, this prompting just kept coming. And I thought, well, you know how you eventually pull the covers down a little bit and you kind of start looking? I started to look and I thought, well, what would that be? What would that podcast be? And so I did some more research, and my slogan is, between God and YouTube, you can learn anything, right? So I started to literally just learn how to podcast through watching YouTube videos. And I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, which I love. I totally own those mistakes. I didn't know how to compress audio. I didn't have the right microphone. It wasn't positioned right. Anyway, all the things, right, that we learn starting on our own. But my title is what I am the most just passionate about, because again, anyone that listens to the podcast will know that this is not a feminine podcast. The word he is in she. It is a universal, all-inclusive, everyone invitation to come and partake of the community. And I remind my community a lot, because I totally get it. When you see the word she's awake, you immediately think of gender, that this is more for women. I can tell you I have as many male followers as I do female. And I don't speak just to women, though obviously a lot of my lived experiences comes through my experiences as a woman. But I have this connection where I can see things and it's genderless. This is just a human experience. And so the word she's awake, we have such a masculine terminology everywhere, biblically. I mean, our law, everything's written in this masculine form. And so I love she's awake, because it flips on its head that we're all in this together. And I love the word she, because he is in she in the English language. And I recognize that that's an English word. But again, God was speaking to me, and that is the language I speak, which is English. But I recognize that this is something for everyone.
Well, let's talk a little bit about just the whole awakening idea, and not an idea, but like what is happening now, because I think there is a lot happening with awakening and the transformation of that divine feminine, and so and the masculine, and balancing those. And so tell us, let's talk about that. Let's dive into that piece of it. What are your thoughts around just the awakening of the divine feminine, and how we're, balancing out?
It's exciting. And this is where I feel like we can start talking in a language that transcends gender. If we look at nature, things grow, a lot of things grow in the ground, and it's dark, right? It's womb centered. It is nurtured with a variety of different things, whether it's the soil, it's water, sun, all of the things. And so we're experiencing that, but growth is painful. I've given birth to 3 children. For me, childbirth was also painful. And so what I'm seeing is this birthing process of the divine feminine, and we're seeing the painful side of awakening to it. And I find it exciting. And also you have a lot of compassion for the people that are saying, wait a minute, my life in the way I've ever seen, quote, God is changing. And I think that this is even beyond just source, because to me, the divine feminine, divine masculine, harmonizing, it's the other thing that flipped for me completely on its head was, oh my gosh, this actually isn't about God. God's already God, right? Source is already source. This is about me. This is about my harmonizing these two powerful energies and harmonizing them within myself, and claiming them, emulating them, owning them, and continually progressing. So for me, the divine feminine has been, I think, calculatedly removed for centuries and centuries of time. And it's like there's a rumbling so powerful that we can no longer ignore it. And the more we can move into it and not resist the painful sides of it, I think as a collective, we will start to embrace the harmony within ourselves and others in a way that we've never experienced as a world community.
Yeah. I love what you said. Just as far as like harmonizing the masculine feminine within, because we tend to look outward so much and so often, and so recognizing that the outward experience, there's no separation between the inner journey. And so when we are truly in balance with ourselves and the balance of the masculine and feminine, and sure, we might have, one might be a little bit more, might have more feminine than masculine or vice versa, but it's not about gender, it's transcending through that gender, but balancing the two, then the relationships outside of ourselves can be more harmonized. Have you noticed that?
Yes, I've noticed that with basically every relationship that I'm in, whether it's with my wonderful husband of 21 years, with my children, community members, even just the way I work with my horses, the way I work with the equine, I start to realize that, oh, if I'm out of balance, it's, I can tell that. And then bringing it back into balance, everything is easier. Everything has less resistance. And, I don't know that I have yet to discover within myself one way of balancing this. I feel like this is the soul's journey, where we're all going to the same endpoint, right? We all are like walking home, but I can't tell you, Sam, or you, Stacy, this is how you do it. Mm-hmm. This is where we were talking about this earlier before we started the recording, but this is where it's so exciting to listen to each other. Mm-hmm. This is where we stop thinking we know everything. Mm-hmm. And we say, what have you learned? Mm-hmm. What has shadow taught you? Mm-hmm. Let's stop trying to avoid shadow. Light travels with shadow. Mm-hmm. So the journey that we're all on, I think, starts here and here, where we listen. What have you learned? And I love the word that you used earlier, Stacy, when we were just chatting, is activate. Mm-hmm. I was activated by something, and I am so grateful for what that activation did. And so as we share, hey, this is just what I'm experiencing right now, I find that let's stop putting a period at the end of everything and calling that forever truth. Mm-hmm. Let's use a lot of commas and run-on sentences, because that's how we grow together. Mm-hmm. When we can share what we've learned, both from light and from shadow, because I actually really believe that is the key to unlocking who you are and the divine feminine masculine energies within you. And I don't care if we call it divine feminine and masculine, if we call it apples and oranges or grapes and strawberries, purple and black, whatever it is, that's what I'm saying is the more we blow up the boxes of what we think this is, and we start to just share and learn, and we're going to walk around with a lot of integrated people.
Yeah.
I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was just going to say, one thing that I think we try to really emphasize on this podcast is that, the shadows, the dark, that is just as important as the light, and you said it so beautifully that, we do need both. That light carries on the shadow, and that's really cool. I've never heard that before. That's a really, really awesome analogy of how to explain, how the shadow and the light need each other. And I completely agree with you. I am a firm believer that if we are to ascend as an individual, if we are to ascend as a collective, if we are to ascend as a planet, that shadow needs to come with us right with the light. We can't just drop the shadow or pretend like it doesn't exist and just focus on the light, because it's the universe does not work that way, and we have been shown time and time again that the universe does not work that way. So I think it's really awesome, in your podcast as well, that you do put an emphasis on the shadow like we do, and that, try to reassure the people listening that it's okay to, go into the shadow. It's okay to transcend that shadow. That shadow is there for a reason. And, a lot of the reasons, it was initially for protection. It was initially for, especially, for me in my childhood, that shadow, that dark was there to protect me, and now being an adult, I don't need it to protect me anymore, but I need to tell it what to do now. I need to work with it, like, because the shadow's not going away, but it needs to be transcended. It needs to be, moved to a more like suitable spot, something to where, it will harmonize with the light, so, and I also really like, the She's Awake podcast that, he's and she, and lately it has been seeming like, the divine feminine is getting that bump, that huge, it's just, skyrocketing right now. And, but the masculine is, it's right there, and it's not so much a power struggle anymore. It's more of a complementary thing, and I think a lot of people are seeing that right now. And, you working with your horses and working with your animals, I'm actually kind of curious to, what messages do they give you about the divine feminine and divine masculine? Because, animals, they don't have a separation like humans do. It's nature, it's natural. So can you kind of just touch on, like your experience with animals and the divine masculine and feminine with working with them?
Yeah. Stop me though, because again, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, because, my passion is for equine, but truly I love all animals and have had unique experiences with animals really my whole life. One of the things that I feel like they would tell you if they could, is to be present in the moment where all things are possible. Working with horses, they are a revolving door of what is present, what presently scares them, what presently helps them feel better, what presently answers their questions of curiosity. So I've learned to communicate with them by watching their body language, and they are talking all the time, with their ears, with their breath, with their tail, with their rib cage, all of the parts. And my trainer would say all of the things, right? We as human beings need to start to recognize when we're asking questions as well, to whether it's to another human being or to source, to the universe, or to the collective, ascended masters. Hey, I've got a question and it's manifesting through the shoulder pain, or my breath is so tight, it's high up in my chest, right? So working with the equine has taught me to tune into my own body and what questions we are always answering the same question. How am I safe? How am I valued? How am I loved? Am I safe? Am I secure, protected, right? The horses are asking the same thing all the time. When they walk by a tarp, when they cross a bridge, when they walk through water, they're saying, am I safe? Is this safe? And through checking in with their body is going to tell them. They have these incredible senses. In fact, I was just out riding a new horse that I'm looking to actually purchase. And I don't know her very well. We don't necessarily have that fullness of trust yet because we're still dating. we're still in the honeymoon phase, right? Yeah. But she stopped. She stopped in the trail. And that can be a couple of different things. It can be, oh, you're being naughty. You can, like, it can be a couple of different things. My sense was it wasn't. My sense was she sensed something that I could not see or hear. So I had a choice to check into my own body, to connect to her body and say, what the heck is this, Oakley? Well, within 20 seconds, another horse came up the trail. Right? She could sense something coming. Now she can't communicate with me and say, hey, Rachel, I'm sensing another living creature coming up the trail. But because I could check in with my own body and how did her body response make my body feel, I could say to everybody else, because I was the lead horse, I was riding the lead horse, hey, something's coming. And I feel like we have those leaders out there right now, and they're saying, hey, something's coming. And that's why we this and this are the skills we're all learning in humanity right now. Because I'm not saying that anyone is telling us for our own personal lives what to do, but they're the ascended masters that are communicating, saying, hey, there is not that something's coming. I don't think it's something. I think it's an opportunity. An opportunity is coming to humanity. Would you like, they're inviting us to take this ascended journey. And being present in the body is one of just something that so profoundly has impacted my life, especially in the last probably year and a half, as I have more deeply committed to my horsemanship.
I love that. I think that really, comes back to that, our bodies are our barometer, and we have to connect with our bodies. And, and as I think a lot of people are going through the healing of trauma right now, and they're letting go of a lot of things that, in that shadow, and that's going to continue to help get connected to their bodies so that they can tune in and trust and give these messages that we all need to hear. And because they're trusting now that what's coming through them, and honoring that part. I just what you said about the horse and tuning into the horse, I think, because it's energy, right? You're tuning into the energy of the horse and trusting your own body. And I think when we all connect to each other in that way, we are activating parts of ourselves, because we're trusting our own intuition and recognizing that something big is coming right now, and what is that, and what is this shift, and what is this awareness that is coming through, and what am I feeling right now, and how can I truly tap into that and share this wisdom. I just a little quick story I think is so cool, because I don't know if my dad's going to listen to this or not, but my dad was kind of going through something the other day, and I taught him Ho'oponopono. And so he had never heard of it, and he, it's not, and it wasn't in his awareness. But he was open to learning about it, and which was so cool, because I was able to share this. Something told me, okay, give my dad this wisdom, this tool technique. And then the next day he texted me, he's like, what were those 4 phrases again? And so we shared that. But that's even the people that you don't think are going to be open to it, just by trusting your own intuition and saying, here is this, or here's this message I want to share with you, so that that you never know where that's going to land, or how people are going to perceive. But I really believe we're all activating each other right now and giving each other messages we truly need to hear, and we need to tap in and trust and listen to that part of ourselves.
Well, and it's important too, I find on the journey, is, again, this is just our English language, but we need to be okay with making mistakes, if there isn't, even if that is a thing. Mm-hmm. One of the things I have observed just in working with clients, and I haven't really talked about my professional career, but just working with people in terms of breaking through some of their limiting beliefs, and whether it's personal or professional, which I think it's all the same thing anyways, but sometimes I get dressed up and go into a business office. I do the same thing, whether it's in person or at an office, it's all the same thing. But it's just recognizing that if we can address and talk to the part of ourselves that's afraid of making a mistake, it's probably one of the most limiting factors as humankind, is because we are so conditioned to shame ourselves and others when they do fall, or they do make a mistake, or they misinterpret, or they're trying. And because we have these boxes and what we think it should look like, and we should on each other, It really, and I feel like this is part of the shedding that's happening within the divine feminine and divine masculine. Is, you're right, Sam, to your point, we do have the divine masculine. I would also say that a lot of that is false and broken of what we even think divine masculine is. And so while there is, when you said there was kind of a surge or an increase in divine feminine, I'm 100% with you. And I felt in my body, I'm like, you know how you're really thirsty, you've been thirsty, and you finally get that refreshing drink. I feel like humanity is experiencing that, whether they know it's a divine feminine or not. There is a surge of this energy that's coming in, and simultaneously we have to peel off what isn't real, what isn't the highest vibrational manifestation of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And so we are so supported right now if we can continue to tap into that support. It doesn't mean that we're going to be void of the mistakes or the days where you just feel like, oh, I'm done, I'm out, sub one coach, right? Those days they're gonna come, and that's so purposeful. It's okay to get tired in this journey too. And it's all of the things. We're all of the things. So acknowledge the surge. It's a good thing, because we have been thirsty for centuries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's been such a void in, just the balance of the energies. And yeah, now I think I love, just that, we have been thirsty. And as now that we're being filled up now, we're being given permission to be in the flow, tap into some of those the feminine energy, that, and not the, because I think when people sometimes, think about feminine, because I work with a lot of people, and I try to work with their energies and teach them about divine feminine and what that feels like. And there's a lot of beliefs, misconceptions around like what it means, like being, submissive and weak and, all of these things. And so when we can really change that perspective and say, well, what about this side of it? What's like, maybe that's the perception that's been given, but here's like this other, when we tap into our creativity, our flow, our, the loving presence, the nurturing, the things that are like, that we're, as women, like trying to tap into more so than say working like 9 to 5 and being super goal focused. And that's what we've been, really, I think, conditioned to feel like we need to be a man in the man's world. But like balancing that and like, and breaking out of, I love that, breaking out of those boxes that we've been conditioned to be in. And so helping bring that flow back into balance, and that we've all been thirsty for. Like, let's all go out and dance. Let's go out and like, just, not feel like we have to make things happen, but be in that flow of, allowing things to happen. And so I know you mentioned not knowing maybe how to tell someone to tap into that. But I'm just wondering, like, in your experience, like, how would someone find that flow or find that balance within themselves? And like, how do they, how can you tell if you're constricted and to maybe release some of that energy?
Oh, I love that question, because I think that's something I'm still developing within myself. It expands all the time. The key is awareness and observation. I used to, and I love this, so I don't want to impose any kind of condition where I wouldn't agree with this, but I have kind of given up on like programs and scripts and a lot of ritualistic things, because for me, the present moment of observation and awareness is where I'm at. And so I can tap in and find out, oh, I'm out of balance here or here. That has been over time in practice, and having my own coaches help me with those skill sets. What I also love is I love affirmations. I do love programs. I do love rituals. I do love scripts. If that's what you need, if that's where you're at. So I liked people to feel into what's working for them. And then also I encourage them and invite them to let it go, because things aren't necessarily meant to stay with us forever. I always use the pacifier analogy. All my kids were pacifier babies, right? And then there was that time when, okay, you don't need this anymore. They're older and they're able to self-soothe, and that root reflex has been integrated and all of the things, right? But it's hard, because that has brought so much security and comfort. And so our routines and our rituals and our affirmations, all those things are beautiful. But part of breaking out of that is saying, thank you, you've helped me so much, or even allowing it to expand and grow. I always pronounce it, I think I don't pronounce it correctly, but the
Ho'oponopono, yeah.
One day, just in my own private meditation, I was shown what comes after that. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. Now, does it negate that prayer and that the powerful results, I guess you could say, from doing that? No, it doesn't. But for me, I was like, oh, this is then what comes next, right? So for integrating into our soul, that's why I think we need to take the periods out of our life. Like, this is now whole and complete for me, because that's I think where we start to co-create our own stuckness, because we become dependent on something that was only ever meant to stay with us for a period of time, like that pacifier.
Right.
Or that thought, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, because I think, I know in my own life, I've gotten stuck in certain patterns where I'm like, oh, this is going to happen, and I need this, and, but recognizing when you can truly recognize when something is not serving you anymore, and you can let that go. And then there's something new and new energy that comes in, then it does start to flow, like taking those periods off, lots of run-on sentences. I love that, what you said, that's just a beautiful way to think about it, because we're not, because that constricts us. Like when we, recognize even, the fact of like relationships, we think, oh, we've been conditioned, in the past, like, that, okay, like you want to get married and have, live with someone for the rest of your life, and, and that's your life. But like, sometimes even relationships don't serve you anymore. And sometimes it comes to a place and you're like, okay, well, this has served me up to this point. What did I learn? What were the lessons, the gifts here? And now what's next for me? It's, that person was a gift, doesn't mean it has to last forever, and so recognizing that it becomes a flow in life, when you can look at things in that way.
Yeah. And that's a journey, because we have these beautiful traditions. I study with a shaman. And so that's been fascinating to be educated more in that healing, ritualistic healing and things like that. It's pretty awesome. But that's one of the things that I do love about it is an exploratory experience. We call it journeying, which is, I think, similar to like meditation or things like that, but we call it journeying. And frequently that's done to drumming. And my teacher would say, like, she gives us enough information to launch us in our journey, but then she's like, whatever happens, allow that to happen. And that is a learned skill that I would claim as a part of the human experience. And it's okay if you're not ready for that yet. That's absolutely okay. Though I will say, I feel like in the way that there's this collective shift happening, this is why conversations like this are so important. Because while I certainly and appreciate honor people that are very obedient to their laws and their traditions and their their hardcore truth. They've got to maybe not be the loudest voices in the room anymore. And that has been an interesting dynamic for me, because I believe in being respectful and listening. But I'm not really in the space anymore where I'm okay to just staying quiet, because that's what I was conditioned to do, is you just agree because this person in authority says that this is what's true, whether it's a religious leader or it's a politician or it's, whatever. Like, you've got to check in and find out, wait, that doesn't feel right, explore it. And I think we have to take into account, again, just going back to harmonizing the divine feminine and masculine, wisdom, knowledge is a part of how we make decisions. Spirituality isn't void of data. Spirituality isn't void of like reality, right? It's the 5D merging with the 3D is a really cool way to see things, because you really are taking the best of everything that we've got, which includes, logic, reason, data, facts. There's a difference between facts and truth, right? And so I think that's part of the harmonizing process. Is we don't abandon everything we've learned in the 3D to be in the spiritual realm all the time. And or vice versa. We can't just hang on to everything we've learned in the 3D, because it really is this mystic spiritual realm in which things get cleared up. Things get put back into place, right? But somewhere, again, in that harmonizing is where like this balance comes into place, and we can appreciate everything this world has to offer. And whatever realms are out there, we can access that wisdom as well.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, what you just said, and just something that, kind of came in my mind a little bit ago that I kind of want to come back to is you and Stacy were talking about the message, the message, providing the message. And to me, I think, the message is just part of it. The message of, divine masculine, divine feminine, are equal, and they should coexist, rather than make it this power struggle that we've been doing for as long as we've been doing it for, and just like with you removing the periods, I would like to remove the power, because, and this is something that we've talked about before, and we were talking about with you as well, is that, the world needs leaders. The world needs different kind of leaders, spiritual leaders, people that are willing to help people to ascend, to help people be better rather than push them down, right? But, when you think leader in a three-dimensional standpoint, immediately the mind goes to power.
Yeah.
The leader has the power, where it shouldn't be that way at all. The power is within the individual, which then goes into the collective, but it's never somebody's more powerful than somebody else, and I think with me anyway, when I watch these gurus and, I read what they have to say and all these spiritual leaders and stuff, it is really hard to not think about their position of power, to not think about, I'll never be up to their level, quote unquote, and that's why when I was saying that the message is only half of it, the message from them is only half of it. The other half is, of the individual to not only accept the message, but put the message into their own practice, so it is, one and the other. It's not just, I received a message, I'm good to go. There are certain people like Eckhart Tolle that had that, like, just profound, on the verge of suicide, and then boom, and his whole life just changed overnight. There are those instances. Unfortunately, that's not the same for every individual, but but yeah, but I do believe, like we've been talking about, it doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what race, creed, color, religion. It doesn't matter what you are in the three-dimensional, because, we all, I feel, have the same purpose and goal. And that is, to find that pure unconditional love, and to be able to be lifted by that pure unconditional love with each other. So but yeah, I just that just kind of entered my mind, the whole message is half, and then putting it into practice is the other half. But speaking of practices, and you kind of touched on this too, I'm a little intrigued to know, so what type of like coaching do you provide people? Because all we've really talked about so far is the podcast, so what's the other half?
I have a master's degree in sport and performance psychology. So that's like I call it like my worldly title or whatever. Love to dive into human performance. So just what you would think of as like mental skills coaching and training. That is my background. That's my area of expertise. Over the course of the last 10 years, my knowledge and wisdom of that has expanded. And then I've merged that with could we call it the spiritual side or psychic side or whatever you want, again, whatever language you want to call it. So working with people one-on-one is more about where do you want to go and how do you want to get there? And then I coach in that. I'm the gap, right? And one thing that I feel really strongly about, and this still goes along with what we're talking about, is the research has shown us that goal setting is helpful, and having a focus and a direction. All of those things are awesome, and I will never stop preaching that, because that is actually still generally an optimal result for performance. Mm-hmm. A slightly different approach that I take to human performance is drawing more attention on and highlighting, amplifying, spotlighting. What are you already good at? That has actually not gotten enough attention in terms of how does what we're already good at and amplifying that. Mm-hmm. So many times just owning your gifts and talents, your innate gifts and talents, you start to recognize the things that are really hard for you start to become easier or fall away completely. Mm-hmm. When we focus all the time on improving, and it's the try hard fail cycle in the psychology, but when we're constantly trying harder, I talk about this when goal set. Like if a client comes to me and says, well, I do a lot of corporate work, so public speaking and running a meeting is a pretty common thing that I work with. Mm-hmm. So say somebody says, well, I can't think in a meeting. I try so hard to have my voice heard, and I don't. And I tell them right then and there, try hard. What does that mean? We don't know what does try hard even mean, right? This is where I like to be able to put clear pictures around intention and what is it that you're already good at. People don't lack knowledge. The client that I was just thinking of, she did not lack the knowledge to communicate in the meeting. It was her belief around the way she was communicating. It wasn't even the knowledge. So we focus a ton on prep, and this, and really spotlighting her. She was a subject matter expert that people frequently came to for problem solving and solutioning. We amplified her skill set and her belief that she couldn't effectively communicate in the meetings. It just on its own self-corrected. And so I feel like that's something that's so powerful when we're learning about ourselves, is what are you already innately good at, and own it. This is not pride. We're so, again, conditioned where, like, if you know that you have a gift to offer, well, no, you got to hide that sucker because you can't come across as selfish or prideful or ego or whatever. And I like to give people a language around that so that they're like, this is what I have to offer. Come to me, because I'm going to come to you so that we can collaborate and work together. right? This is again, the masculine feminine. Hey, I'm coming to you for help, but are you coming to me? Because I got some crazy, mad skills. Let's own it. Let's own that we're incredible human beings. We don't need to walk around dimly lit, focused on the one or two things that we're facing. Oh, no, I'm crap at that. Yeah, I'm not good. I was never a good 3-point shooter in basketball. I'm 5'11". I was not going to be a point guard, right? Now they probably are. But when I played, I never developed as a 3-point shooter. Cry me a river. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life worrying about if I was a good 3-point shooter in high school, right? So we're already incredible. We got to own it. We got to live it. We got to vibrate it. We got to learn how to house that powerful vibration, because the few things that we aren't good at, I don't think that they're actually made to self-correct. I think that's where we go and ask for help. That's where we go and partner with somebody and say, hey, I'm not very good at this. Or hello, pass the ball to the point guard that can shoot the 3, whatever it is. Sorry, I can talk sports all day long too. So that is why I'm passionate about working in corporate work, because so many times we have powerful independent contributors, but they walk around with their opportunity report that is telling them everything that they lack. And my job is to go in and say, I want to know everything you're killing it, because we're going to highlight it. We're going to amplify it. We're going to get you walking a little bit brighter. And then all of a sudden those things, now, again, I don't put blinders on that there aren't growth opportunities. There certainly are. But until you're filled up, you are always running on an empty tank if you focus on everything that you're not good at. Empty tank.
I absolutely love that, because, it's so true. I think we can, some people might naturally be good at, say, math, or, some people are, that just doesn't come natural for them. Like for me, algebra was like not I don't want to say how many times it took, but it took a couple times to get through college algebra. And, I was like, but that's not my strength. My strength was like social science and, working on those natural things. I excelled in that. And so, but yeah, if we take all of our, and if we take our energy and put it toward what we're good at, we can really hone in on those gifts that we came here. I believe we came here with these gifts that we can, give to the world. And that's what, how we can activate each other. That's how we can provide our soul's purpose and truly tap into our sovereignty, our flow, the energy that we are here to put out into the world and truly make a difference, and in our own, soul's growth and our soul's purpose. And because I see, when people truly come into community, right, and they can share those gifts in this community, and they're all like collaborating, the energy is created, and there's so much power in that, and we can truly feel that energy, and finally I think feel like we are using our truth, our voice, and opening up our soul to be in this world that, and creating this connection rather than separation, so I think that all plays a role in that piece.
Well, and in group dynamic, to your point, what you can create, and I think that you were going here, is when people can be vulnerable. When there is trust within any tribe, whether it's corporate, whether it's a team, whether it's a family, it's a community, volunteer group, it's a church congregation, whatever group dynamic, insert yourself, until there's vulnerability, creativity, and communication, and that explosion of progress is always going to feel like somebody is paddling uphill. And it does become exhausting. It's why I think we lose sometimes some of our best athletes, some of our best people in the workplace. They tap out. They're exhausted. And part of that is the environment of when you have to paddle upstream all the time. It's actually normal to say, I'm out. I've got to go do something different where I can use my gifts, use my talents, and and progress. And I think that that's healthy change as well, which is why I feel like too, in our society, we are shifting in and out of different tribes. People are leaving certain jobs. They are moving towards a job or employment that is more like their passion. I mean, you two, your story of starting this podcast is fascinating, right? So we're moving in that direction, and it's healthy to give each other permission to say, if you need to leave me, if like you got to leave this job, or you need to leave this team, or you're whatever, let's celebrate people going and doing rather than shaming them for the change.
Yeah. And I think that, all of that change and learning to open up to our vulnerabilities, even as we're learning our gifts, if it's something that we're passionate about, but we're still learning how to, be good at it, something, that vulnerability, I think we, opening up to that's part of that feminine energy too, learning to be vulnerable within that space. And so that's, transforming and giving ourselves permission to learn and grow within that space as well. So thank you so much, Rachael. So I'm wondering if you could tell our listeners where they can find you and what you're currently working on.
Sure. The podcast She's Awake is on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, pretty much wherever you're listening to a podcast, you'll be able to find She's Awake. And you can reach out to me on Instagram. She's Awake. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes, but just She's Awake podcast. You can search that. Or I do have a private Facebook group for the podcast. If any of your community members are interested in joining that, of course, it's free. More engagement, interaction with me. People can reach out to me through that. Or you can private message me through Facebook, Rachael Grant Dixon, or She's Awake podcast at gmail.com. Also, if you want to just, I know when I always say to people, you can send me an email. So some people are like, great, email is my thing. It's my jam. And other people are like, email? I haven't read an email in 3 years. It's so funny. Everybody uses their technology differently. So that those three places, so email, She's Awake podcast at gmail.com, Facebook or Instagram are the best ways if anyone would like to reach out to me. And I'd love for people to join the She's Awake community. That's fabulous. And if not, I love this opportunity to collaborate with this is the tribe. We're doing this thing, and these kinds of experiences are edifying for the three of us. But I know that each one of us intentionally is sending this out so that we all can benefit and vibration doesn't die. So when you're ready to get hit with that vibration, in a very gentle kind of way, when you step into that vibration, it will be there for you. So 5 years from now, somebody may listen to this podcast and go, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. And so to those people that transcend time, you're always welcome. This message is always here for you. And that is really exciting. And I love that I was actually meditating on your guys's Be the Love, that title this morning. And I love the word be. Be the love. And one day I was meditating on love, and I just said, what is love? And again, the English language, it was light over various experiences. And since we travel with shadow, it is all of it. It's what we have to offer in the moment. We're doing the best we can with what we know at that time. And it's the level of light and wisdom that we have at that time. So be the love is such an incredible something to embody. There's a direction there if that is your intent, to be the love, to be the light over various experiences. I would say I would honor that anyone that was taking that journey for sure.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Yeah. It's always been just the message I've received, and I've been in alignment with that message for so long. I've always it's my motto, probably I received that message in probably my late 20s, be the love you wish to see in the world, right? And Gandhi said, be the change. I was like, I want to be the love, and because that's what's gonna, yeah, when you're coming from that place of love, you're shifting the vibration, you're being that, and you're spreading that to others, whether or not, they can see it or not at the time. It's like, I want to stand with you and just love you right now, because that's what we're all about. And so, I've had to do a lot of work on that, but it is just that strong, message. And it's, when you be in that space, it's very powerful to just be, and we don't have to do, we can just be. So thank you. And thank you, Rachel, so much for being here with us today and sharing in this conscious conversation. It's been absolutely beautiful. And thank you for listening to our show. Stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you've enjoyed this show, we would absolutely love a 5-star written review on iTunes. And of course, please share the love by sharing it with your friends. And if you want to support the work that we're doing, please consider making a donation to our show by visiting our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast. And until next time, love yourself, love each other, and love the world. We love you.
Love you guys. Take care. We'll talk to you later.
We at Be the Love Podcast are honored to be supporting the Commodity Foundation, which is the nonprofit organization in Uganda that is working to build a school that will promote and support healthcare, education, skills development, feeding the hungry, human rights, and environmental defenders. Their goal is to work with young mothers and single mothers, street children, and vulnerable families who lack nurture as they guide them to become productive individuals, which will lead to a productive generation. Please see our show notes on how to become a donor, mentor, volunteer, or sponsor.
Thank you, Heather Lynn, for providing us with your beautiful song to accompany our show, Be the Love. If you would like to learn more about Heather Lynn and her music, please visit her website at heatherlynnmusic.com. And thank you, Chrissy Grace at Leading Edge Productions, for the beautiful design and graphics.
And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we are souls on the journey. And thank you for hopping on the Ascension bus with us. And remember, there is always a seat for you.